Is there any hope for the next generation? Well, I've got some good news. Keaton Steen from Turning Point USA is here in the bunker for some straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Well, welcome back to another great show, because today I'm excited that we have a young leader in the Rockwall community, a kid named, snot-nosed kid, frankly, a kid named Keaton Steen. Keaton, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Keaton is not just a student at Rockwall Heath High School. He's also a young leader. And I wanted to take a little bit of time to meet this kid and let you know and know who he is, because he's an up-and-coming leader, especially with this Turning Point organization, an organization that I have great support for, and I think it does some great things. And so so I thought it would be great for you to get to know the founding president of the Rockwall Heath chapter. And Keaton is not, I guess he's not new to the things that go on in Rockwall, because he's been a big fixture here in our city. He has been honored by the Rockwall Rotary Club as the student of honor with the Rockwall Rotary Club, and there is pictured with the county judge. Is that your mom next to you, or who is that?
That's my principal.
Your principal,
Amy Parks, Miss Smith.
Okay, that's Miss Smith. Sorry, I don't know teachers very very well, but yeah, that is awesome. And so I guess that was a neat honor for you. How old are you in that picture?
I'm in 6th grade in that, so I guess I'm about 12 years old.
Okay.
It was a real honor to have my teachers choose me to be a Rotary Club student of honor. I guess the best part was that I got to leave school early that day. and
yeah, I can relate.
Go to the Rotary banquet.
Yeah.
And meet some community leaders, including Dr. V.
Dr. Villarreal is the superintendent of Rockwall School District, and so obviously that is really a neat honor. But you're much more accomplished than that. You're also an Eagle Scout, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So when did you get your Eagle Scout?
This past May 26th. I was the 100th Eagle Scout from my troop
Wow.
in Heath, Troop 314.
Okay, very good. And also, you are part of the Youth Advisory Council for the City of Rockwall. Now, this is your first year on that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how did you get selected for that?
Well, one of my friends sent me the application link and said, I think you'd be great for this. So I applied, and then I had my interview about 2 weeks ago, and then last Wednesday, I got an email that says, freshman Keaton Steen from Rockwall Heath High School has been selected for the Youth Advisory Council.
I received the press release, so that was very neat to see. You are also you're not just active, but you're also a student. You're an honors student. You are actually on the public safety track. For those who are not familiar, I was not familiar that there's a legal track at Rockwall School in the Rockwall School District. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Principles of Law and Public Safety is where you enter into the law track. So that's your freshman year, and then you take Law 1 and Law 2 your sophomore and junior year, where you learn all about you learn about constitutional law and what police officers do and ethics and things like that. And then in your senior year, there's actually some decisions for you. There's a courtroom decision where you actually get to act as a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and in multiple different positions in the courtroom. So for aspiring politicians, lawyers, people who want to go to law school, it's a really good path and a really good asset to Rockwall ISD.
Yeah, I'm been one of the advisors for the mock trial team at Dallas Christian, and hope you'll do that. Are you familiar with mock trial? Do they do that?
I know they have a law club in which they have competitions. Actually,
okay.
They have a lawyer competition. They actually have a building search competition in which you can do things like what police officers do. So you can stop cars, and you can make 911 calls, and you can actually do searching a building.
Wow.
So they actually have a really nice law club that my teacher's involved in, and all the other law teachers are involved in, for students to be involved with.
Isn't it crazy that anybody would want to be a police officer in this day and age with as much hate that is going around toward police officers?
It certainly is, and especially with 9/11 being last Friday, it's so. I watched a video of some people from New York talking about how they know that the same police officers that perished in that tragedy, police officers would do the same thing today, despite what they think their faults are. So there's a lack of appreciation for police officers, but the people that still go to the police academy and still want to do that job are very commendable.
Absolutely. I knew one of a guy named Sim Woodham, and he was a police officer that he calls firefighters, police. I don't know if you know this is a little inside baseball, but they call firefighters pie eaters because people always come out with pies for the firefighters. You go to the firehouse, but they don't do that for the police. So hey, let's change that. Rockwall County can be the first place to do that. But I agree. I mean, this is a crazy age that we're in. Especially as it relates to police and how we treat one another even. Yeah. So anything else on your career track as far as your high school career? I know you're a freshman. So how are you liking school so far? You're back in the classroom. Has that been good so far?
It's been very good. I've taken on in school classes for the entirety of COVID. I think it was a bad decision for some of the kids that just stayed home because they didn't really want to come to school.
Right.
I'm seeing the effects of that right now. I know somebody that stayed home just because they didn't want to come to school, and they're really struggling. And I'm like, well, you know why that is? It's because, you took the online path, and it's not as effective. I was quarantined for 2 weeks, and I very, very quickly found out that online schooling is not as effective as in-person schooling. It's a lot less productive. So I'm enjoying my classes very much, and I think my school has great teachers, and I'm enjoying them.
Oh, that's great. Well, one of the things I really wanted to kind of address with you before we go into the subject matter at hand, which is the group that you're leading, is the millennial generation, Gen Y, is somewhat of a group that a generation that, from a Gen Xer's point of view, seems somewhat selfish and seems like they're kind of in things for themselves, and it is a little frustrating. And when you see the kind of the differences between the different generations, and this is just 3 of the generations, X, Y, and Z, is what Pew Research. They're the ones who basically come up with these standards, but this kind of gives a little bit of an overview of the X, Y, and Z generation. And what's different about Gen Z, according to Pew Research at this time, and again, this is an early part of looking at this cohort group, but the security and stability is important to you. You guys have grown up with FaceTime and social media, and you're multitaskers, and nano computing. I'm guessing that's smaller computers is I'm guessing that's what that means. What do you see as some of the differences between the Gen Z, the millennials, the Gen X? What are you seeing?
Well, I think Gen Z, we're definitely multitaskers.
Yeah.
Especially with, there's an increasing amount of, things available to Gen Z as far as opportunities go, as time goes on. So I think, with school and extracurricular and sports, multitasking is definitely something that Gen Z is doing a lot. But I think with Gen Y, but the millennials, what you said about them being a little bit self-centered, a little bit selfish sometimes, I think the most important example of that is you see some millennials saying how they would rather give themselves a better lifestyle than spend their money on having children. And I think that's really sad, and it's I think it shows a lot about that generation.
And millennials are considered the Gen Y.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Yes. And then one thing my science teacher said that was actually quite profound, I just heard it from the other side of the class the other day, and it just kind of stuck with me, was that Gen X was one of the first generations to have both parents in the household working, especially if you're low to middle class person growing up in the Gen X era. So I think what she said was that Gen X learned to do it themselves. So they
had to be more independent.
Yes.
Yeah.
They grew up as the independent, let me do it myself generation, and then when they had kids, which is Gen Z, they kind of did things for Gen Z, and that's why Gen Z is considered one of the more lazy generations.
You mean Gen Y? Because you're Gen Z.
Yes.
Oh, you think that Gen Z is lazy?
I think Gen Z.
Oh, really?
Lazy.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you think can be done to change that?
Well, I think there needs to be a focus on Gen Z doing what's right and what's constructive for them over what's easy. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing online school, that might be the right choice for you. Maybe you have someone at home that's at risk that you need to do online school. Be productive in that and do what you need to first, and make sure that you're making the right decisions for you instead of doing what's easy, which is just blowing off all your work and everything. Because in the end, doing what's right is gonna catch up to you, and it's gonna reward you, because you're gonna have better grades if you do actually do your work, and you're gonna have rewards if you actually do constructive things for your life instead of just doing the absolute bare minimum. So I think getting out of that fog is a lot of personal responsibility, mm-hmm. and making sure that Gen Z knows how important personal responsibility is. Yeah, and I do think that a lot of the Gen Z, they're very giving. So they like to be, according to the research that I've seen, they like to volunteer for things. They like to be involved in things. So that's kind of a good thing because of really what you're doing, and that is kind of starting a brand new chapter of Turning Point USA. Now, Turning Point USA, for people who are not familiar with it, is a non-for-profit organization. But give us a kind of a thumbnail. What is Turning Point, and how is it going to change Rockwall Heath High School? Absolutely. So Turning Point USA is a 501c3 founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk. He's on Fox News quite often. He's 28, and he leads the largest and fastest growing youth organization in America. So that's Turning Point. So Turning Point USA, their mission is to identify and educate and mobilize young conservatives to save America's future. So they're going to identify young conservatives. They're going to educate them on how to stand up for their ideals. Because I think one thing we see quite often is they have the right ideas, they just don't know how to defend them. And sometimes if they try to defend them without actually knowing how, then they can come off as maybe radical or too aggressive or uncaring. So I think knowing that education part of Turning Point USA is very important, and then mobilizing them. So giving them an avenue in which they can support the ideals that are important to them.
Yeah, one of the things that we had talked about before we came on the air is the difference. One of the differences between Gen Z and the other generation is, you guys are not necessarily on Facebook, which is funny because I'm not on Instagram. Instagram is where Gen Z lives. Is that right?
That's right.
And so, how is it different in regard to connecting with people compared to Facebook?
Well, I think, as I've said, is Instagram is just the new Facebook fad. So it's kind of like with shoe fads. People get tired of something, then they see this new model getting launched, and then they get excited. I think that's kind of what Instagram is to Facebook. It's just a newer version, and then Gen Z is really taking to that. I think.
Why do you think Gen Z is so much more enamored with Instagram than Facebook? What is it that's so different?
Well, I think it's basically the same platform, but they just have a different environment. Like everything's very, very modernized. They have. It's just a place where people can they make their accounts, and then they they post their their photos and everything. And I think it's different than Facebook because just the people that are on it. Because I think the people that really care about the fads and everything are the younger people. Okay. So the people that are a little bit older don't really care about the fads. So Gen Z just kind of has their own, and Gen Y has has Instagram.
So is that how you're connecting with and kind of growing your your organization in Rockwall Heath, do you primarily use social media, or do you do it the old-fashioned way and just meet people in the hallway and at events?
I think throughout starting Turning Point USA, it's been a balance. So I've worked a lot on our social media and making the graphics and the infographics and the announcements and everything. But I think you also have to keep in mind, because there's Turning Point USA accounts that have like they're professional graphic designers and everything, and they're making their own educational resources. But I think one thing we really need to keep in mind is that this is a grassroots activism organization. So when you have that personal touch, being more relatable, staying in that hallway, more willing to talk about those issues, you're more likely to get more engagement. So I think having that social media presence is important, but I think what's even more important is the tabling and seeing the students in person. So I think doing the old-fashioned way is leaps and bounds more important than social media.
So Turning Point. So what is your objective at the school?
Our objective at the school is first, since we are a new chapter, we just became an official chapter with Turning Point 2 months ago. So I think right now is getting that conservative base of students that already have the same ideas as us, and then once we get that base and we get those volunteers that are passionate and energetic and want to go out there and change minds, then we can go and we can try and change the minds of those who disagree within the school.
So you're talking about a big school of kids with brains full of mush, as Rush Limbaugh used to say. And so this seems interesting because, how do you know if someone's conservative? How do they know if they're conservative? How are they to understand the difference? Because, right now, the media has a monopoly, and social media, Facebook, YouTube. There are things I can't say on this channel because I'll be kicked off. So since the media has such a stronghold on speech and on issues, how do you get around that, especially at Rockwall Heath High School?
I think when you're not like talking to somebody on social media, then it's they can't restrict you, and there's a reason they're trying to restrict conservative voices, because we have something to say.
Yes.
So
good point.
So when we're talking to these students, I think determining whether or not they're conservative or not conservative minded is it's different in every case. I think with teachers, it's a little bit harder to know, because they keep it very very close.
Oh yeah.
Because even conservative teachers, like I have teachers that I would have never known are conservative if they hadn't told me. So and I have teachers I wouldn't have never known they were liberal if I had heard about it. If I hadn't heard about it. So I think there's social cues that you can kind of pick up, but I think when people know your values, they're more willing to share sort of theirs. So I think being respectfully outspoken is very, very important.
Now, one of the things about Turning Point that I like is that it is focused on educating, and it is focused on providing information that's basically, ironically, the alternative to the mainstream media. And so what are some of the things and ways that your group is going to do that at Rockwall Heath?
Well, when we table,
Table, what does that mean?
So tabling is, I guess it's a newer term. I would have never known what tabling was unless I got involved at Turning Point.
Okay.
But tabling is when, you go to like a convention and they have the hall with all the tables on the side. When a company says they want a table, it's when they want to set up a table, with their company banner or sign, and then they want to distribute materials about that particular topic or their company or chapter or whatever. So I think so when we table is basically when we set up our the school actually sets out tables, which is really nice. So we put our banner on our table, and then we put out all of our promotional materials, and then we talk to students about what they believe about that issue. So Turning Point actually has themes. So like if you wanted to do I know a few weeks ago was School Choice Week. So if you wanted to talk to some students about what school choice is, because many students don't even know, and you wanted to hand out, they actually have these flyers that...
and you actually have one.
Yes, I brought a flyer. So they have these flyers that they give us. They mail us all sorts of supplies. So
and this came from Turning Point.
It did.
Okay.
Yes. So Turning Point, just gives facts about school choice and what it is and how it benefits students. So they have those themes. They have numerous other ones. We for our first project, in fact, we gave out like never forget 9/11 pins and stickers, and then that was basically our debut as a club. That was our first tabling event.
How was that received?
It was received pretty well.
Yeah.
I had one person tell me that they love socialism, but that's really the only negative thing I heard. but
You're giving away 9/11 pins, and they say we love socialism.
yes,
Yeah.
well, they just see because. When I lay out these materials, I lay out all the turning point materials so they can kind of be like, well, what is this chapter? So they see the pen that's like an anti-socialism pen, and they're like, well, I actually love socialism. And so you just kind of start talking to them about like why they support socialism, and they don't really have much to say because they don't live in Venezuela and they don't live in Cuba. So when we give out these materials, it's educational, and then it spreads awareness about what Turning Point is. So I think it's important that they know what it is. When
you started this tabling, there was an event that you were hoping to be at, and you're a brand new organization, so you had a teacher who was sponsoring you. You had the administration approved you, but you still had to have district approval, and at the very last minute found out that you couldn't set up a table. This was a few months ago.
Yes, it was. I guess probably around a month ago. It was August 6th.
Okay.
So that's fish camp. So that's when all the freshmen come
and for my Aggie friends, I know they stole our term, but go ahead.
Yeah. Like I thought fish camp was
it's an Aggie tradition, but go ahead. All right, I'm listening.
I thought fish camp was a Rockwall Heath exclusive name, and then
man.
I was telling somebody about it, and they're like, no, that's all over. That's not exclusive.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had our supplies, and then I figured out we can't table. So I went to every extent that I could to try and
to every what?
Every extent to try and get around that rule. But in the end, it didn't work out. So that was kind of a bummer. But
so it was a delayed start.
It was a delayed start. So, but we were doing things on social media like before that time. So we still had like our social media presence before that. But then our real like campus debut, the first time someone saw a Turning Point USA sign on campus was last Friday, September 10th.
So, so you're allowed to put up signs. I see they've got some banners that you can. You want to show a few of the banners that you guys are putting up?
Yes. So we have this one that says "Born to be Free," and then actually on we had red, white, and blue game day theme a few weeks ago. So like on game days, they'll have everyone dress up in neon or red, white, and blue or Heath colors for school spirit. And I asked some of my teachers, I was like, can I bring these USA pens and some stickers and some signs, and the class can take pictures and wear these pens. So they actually let me distribute USA materials. Those aren't really the more controversial materials. We have ones in here that
let's see a controversial.
So this one says "Say no to
I love that.
Say no to critical hate theory. So that's very controversial because it does deal with a
critical race theory,
racial issue.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've been told about putting up things is that they have to get approved. So I don't know how that's going to go. I haven't asked them about approving things yet. But I don't really know how that's going to go down with some of the more controversial things. But I think, are we going to shy away from controversial issues, or are we going to actually have diversity of thought and just go all in?
You're right, and it is interesting that the LGBTQ group can have a door designed at Heath High School. I'd be interested to know, and I think a lot of the people would also be interested to know if there is going to be the opportunity for this organization that's basically opening the dialogue for discussion, if they're going to be given the same treatment as those other groups are. But I guess time will tell.
It definitely will. I think I actually asked about setting up a door. So setting up a door will be a priority for us within the next few months. So we will have a pro-capitalism, pro-America door on our sponsor's door that students will walk by. So we'll have that, and then
So that is something. I mean, parents, if you're watching, I think this is where when you want to become active and when you want to stop all of this nonsense that's going on in the schools, here you have a young man who is really just trying to bring conversation, bring a dialogue into the school, and you have to have controversy sometime to make that happen. So I hope that parents are paying attention and will make sure that the school board knows that this is something that just because something's controversial doesn't mean that it's hate or it's hateful. So I hope that you're going to be able to be successful on that.
And one thing about having the more progressive student groups is that it kind of provides accountability for the administration. So they have to, like, if they just had all progressive groups, then it wouldn't really be an issue because they could just treat them all one way, and they wouldn't really know, is it because we're progressive, or is it because, is it just how they speak? Is it because we're a non-curricular based student group? Now that there is a conservative student group and there's progressive student groups, it kind of provides accountability where they're all treated the same. And if they're not, then, either I'm going to be mad or the president of the progressive group is going to be mad, and it'll get addressed. So I think it's definitely important to have that diversity of thought, and that's very
and by me saying that they have a door, I don't think that you're opposed to them having a door, just making sure that we all have the same rights. Isn't that right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun and interesting to see. You've been really busy because not only are you here, but this week you were also speaking to some Republican women. Tell me a little bit about where you were.
I was at the Rockwall County Republican Women's Meeting.
Yep.
So that's one of the clubs that's part of the Rockwall County GOP. So I spoke there about Turning Point USA and in my political journey and how kids can get involved and why it's so important for young conservatives to have those strong beliefs, and to fight for them, especially on campus. So I spoke to those women, and the Rockwall County GOP has been extremely supportive throughout my creation of the chapter.
Wow, that's great. So good reception from the Republican women.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have fun doing that?
I did.
That's good. Well, and I'm glad that you're doing it because there's not a lot of kids your age that are doing it. But you're not alone in this. You're the founding president, but you also have, ironically, you're the freshman founding. I find that hilarious. I love that in Timothy in the Bible, and I think the one thing, you're a follower of Christ as well, so we have that in common. We know Christ is our Savior, and so that's important, and that drives us. So let no one look down on your youthfulness. That's a friend of yours, Dalton Tassett, used that for his slogan on his campaign material for his race for school board. Wasn't successful, but that was a good point. And so you're not alone. You've got 3 seniors that are helping you in this, that are also your officers. Is that right?
Yes. So we have the way that Dalton actually found out who I was that he saw the Turning Point USA Instagram, and he saw that my the now vice president of the chapter, Sarah Fields, was following the chapter. So she gave him my contact information. So Sarah Fields is the vice president.
Okay.
And then we have Ruby Knox, who's the secretary, and Wade Lovell, who's the treasurer. So they're involved in the school, in student council, and things like that. So they've been very supportive throughout the creation of the chapter, and I think it's very good because they're involved in student council. So
as you are.
Yes, as I am. So
yep.
But they're actually the president and vice president and in those officer positions. So we have the president and vice president of student council as the vice president and secretary of Turning Point. Wow,
very, very. And is that how you guys got connected through city council?
Yeah, and then we're family friends as well.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, that is exciting. You obviously have done a lot of work. What one of the things that you also have speakers come in. So hopefully next year, you'll be able to have some notable speakers that might help drum up the notoriety of this great organization.
Absolutely. So Turning Point USA actually has a speakers bureau that you can request speakers from, and then there's other organizations that supply speakers as well. I have a whole list of organizations that supply speakers, sometimes for free, and then sometimes it costs some. But Turning Point also offers activism grants for us to pay for those, so they'll donate to our chapter. So Turning Point USA supplies us with all the resources we need to get those speakers and to get those projects on our campus.
Well, that is exciting because there's a lot of opportunities here in Rockwall that you guys can certainly help drum up awareness. One of the things about this show is I've always been frustrated that a Republican does not a conservative make, and Turning Point is not a Republican or Democrat organization. It's non-political. It's just conservative. It has a politically conservative, I guess, bent, but it's open to anyone. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So,
being a part.
We do typically attract Republicans.
Of course, yes,
because
right.
More typically conservatives, but it is open to maybe someone of another ideology. I don't know why they would want to.
Yeah, I don't know why they.
But it is open to them. So
yeah, and I think the frustration is most people just don't understand why they're a Democrat or why they're. I see this a lot with Republicans. They don't know why they're a Republican. So that's the thing that Turning Point can do is help educate people on what a Republican and Democrat is, and it really kind of brings to bear if you want to get involved in this organization, if you want to help them, there's ways to do it, and you can. I'm looking at TP. Is that first one an Instagram thing? Is that what that is?
Yes, that's an Instagram logo.
See, I don't know any. Yeah, so I've already been scolded, and so I've got to get an Instagram account now. So keep an eye out for that. It's funny because you were like, "Yeah, I was looking for Bunker Bob on Instagram and couldn't find it." So there's a reason why. So I've learned something today. So hopefully by this time next month we'll have an Instagram account, and maybe you guys can critique it and say, this really stinks. Here's what you need to do. So can you at least give us a little help on that?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And so obviously, if you want to email them, there is the email address. I'm going to be adding this to the description in the below so that you'll be able to go right to it. Square.site. What is that?
So creating a website domain costs like money, and it creates time and everything. So an easier way is to use a website called Square. Basically it's a custom website maker, so it's just an easier way. So it's kind of an odd domain name, but it costs less than a custom domain and the time that I would have to put into it and everything.
Well, I think what's important is that if you do support this organization, the donations are tax deductible, so you can certainly do that, and I would encourage you to do that. You can help in other ways as well by making sure that you're holding the school board accountable to fairness and equality for all. It doesn't mean equality of outcome, just opportunity, and so I think that's what this organization is doing. Keaton, I'm very impressed with what you've done and what you're doing for the school. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that we should have?
Well, one last thing I want to say is that I think the main reason that young conservatives need to be involved and have a way to be involved is that almost every political issue comes down to how it affects the kids. It's what we talk about most of the times when we talk about like CRT, critical race theory, and we talk about gender ideology issues and how it affects the children. We talk about vaccine mandates and how what we're teaching children about freedom. It always comes down to how it affects the next generation and what they're being taught about those principles. So I think that's why it's so important for young conservatives who are passionate and energetic to have an avenue to fight for their values and for them to get involved with Turning Point USA.
Well, I think it's certainly a great organization. They certainly have some great leadership, which I think is really the bigger part of that, because you can have a great organization, but if you don't have the leadership inside the school, it's not going to happen. But Keaton, I'm excited. You have 4 years to make this thing an explosive part of Rockwall Heath High School. I wish you the very best. I hope that you'll come back on the show and give us some updates along the way. So thank you for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, and I hope that this has been helpful for you as well, and that you'll be involved. If you, as I said, I'll have all of the information in the description below, and I hope that this group grows greatly. And so, hopefully, we will hear great things about this organization. Don't forget that, as Thomas Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fears the people, well, that's where liberty exists. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have a great day. God bless you, and until next time, blessings.